There we go.
Here we go. So, thank you,
Thanks.
Paul Arthur, for coming for the interview.
Thank you so much for inviting me over and doing this. I saw some of your previous ones, and you've been doing a great job with this.
Thank you very much.
This is a fun project.
So, I'll let you start and let us know your full name, where you were born, and all that.
Well, I call myself Paul Arthur. Arthur's my middle name. My last name is Iarrera. Iarrera, Iarrera. I was born in Boston, but I came to Montreal when I was a very young child. My dad's from Montreal, and my mom's from Boston, and so they met at school over there.
Woohoo.
And I was actually, I think my mom broke her water in Montreal. They were visiting family,
Wow.
and she made my dad drive her to Boston to have me, in case one day I wanted to be the president of the United States.
Which I assume you don't want.
Well, not at least not this week.
Not this week.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you first get involved with music?
Wow, I've been involved with music in one way or another most of my life. My first involvement with music was through church. My father and my mother, both of them are preachers. Were preachers. My father's dead now. And so my first music experiences was with the church, and I was in the church choir and stuff like that. And so that's where I first got my exposure to music. But since a young kid, I always wanted to. I told my folks that I wanted to be a musician. So I've always had it in me. I've always enjoyed it. It was something that I enjoyed to do.
And what instruments did you start with? You were
Well,
singing in the choir,
I
suppose, at
I sang in a
church.
choir at church. Again, through the church, at one point I had some guitar lessons, and I learned about, I don't know, 5 or 6 chords, and I still know those chords. I've never really progressed from those days because I rarely practice my guitar, but I learned some guitar, and I took piano lessons as well as a kid. And then later on, as I got into high school and stuff like that, I took up trombone. I played trombone for,
Wow.
I don't know, 10 or 11 years. I played a bit of saxophone as well, but I preferred the trombone. So I sort of took sax lessons one summer just to make sure, because at first I thought I might want to play saxophone. It was a very popular instrument back then. And by the time they got to the I's, there were no more saxophones left at school. So I ended up with a trombone. And then I said, oh, I want to see what it would have been like to play saxophone. So I took some sax lessons, and I started playing a bit of saxophone. But I preferred the trombone, so I went back to
Trombone.
playing trombone. Yeah.
And what about the harmonica? Because the first time I saw you was singing in harmonica
Well,
mostly.
harmonica I learned as a. I don't remember exactly where I picked up the harmonica, but I was playing things like Old Susanna and stuff like that, playing a straight harp. And I don't know, I must have been 18 or 19 years old, and I was living in an apartment that we called the garret. It didn't have like a shower in it. It just had a little bathroom which doubled as a dark room. We had 2 bedrooms and a vault for piano. And I was studying trombone, and I was studying music at the time at the Vanier College. And we were partying one night, kind of a drunken party. And this friend of mine, Peter, this guy was a real musical genius. He could take any instrument, bring it home for a few days, and come back, and he'd be playing it proficient with it, you know. And somebody started playing a blues on a guitar, and I had this harmonica that I had in my pocket, you know, and I wasn't getting it. And Peter yelled out across the room, "It's mostly sucking, Paul." And that was, I think, my one and only harmonica lesson. and I found that he was right, and it went on from there. I never stopped from there, so I taught myself to play harmonica,
That's good.
which isn't that hard to do.
In your family, was there anybody musical or?
Well, my mom was musical to a certain extent. I guess all the kids were exposed to it, but none of them were. I think my sister might have played in the school band, but none of them really did anything with music. None of them really studied it or anything like that.
What was the first tune that you learned? Do you remember the very first? Either guitar or whatever, trombone or too far away?
I don't know. There were probably tunes to sing around the campfire on the
Okay.
guitar. You know, simple chords. I couldn't remember
Okay.
a first song that I.
And the blues was at that part.
The blues.
That
Well, you know, I've been listening to blues for quite some time. I had quite eclectic taste in music, and I listened to all kinds of different styles.
That's good. Yeah.
Blues, jazz, classical, rock. But as a kid, I remember when everybody was listening to the rock bands of the day, you know, Kiss and those bands. I was listening to Tommy Dorsey and Glenn Miller and stuff like that, because that's the records that I had at home, mostly, and I didn't have money to buy them. But and I started listening to blues and stuff like that, blues and jazz, and as I started doing work jobs and making money, summer jobs and stuff like that, I was able to buy my own records and stuff like that. And so I started buying, along with the progressive rock of the day and stuff like that, I started buying Johnny Winter records and stuff like that. So I guess I started listening to blues as a teenager.
And what, in your view, is what famous blues player is one of your favorites?
Oh my goodness! You
Or
know,
is there
I
too
have
many?
so many.
Okay.
I'd have to say that Johnny Winter is a major influence on me.
Okay.
He's a hero of mine. You know?
Yeah.
But I've seen and heard so many different players. You know, I was very lucky. Montreal had quite a happening bar scene back in those days, and I remember going to the Raisin Cain, where I later ended up playing quite often, and seeing all kinds of acts. You know, Lightning Hawkins,
Wow.
B.B. King, and Muddy Waters Band, and stuff like that. And so I've got a wide range of influences, ranging from folk blues to Chicago style blues, you know, Mississippi folk and country blues to modern amplified stuff like that. But if I had to choose any one major influence on me, I would say Johnny Winter was the one.
And today we see you all over the place at all different kinds of venues and different styles too. I've seen you just play like double with a
And the
guitar
duet with
and,
it, well,
and things like that. Why? What made you go? I mean, because you're interested in all kinds of music, but not just blues. So you.
I do have a duet called the Half Quartet that I play with from time to time with Bertrand Lemieux as my partner in that. And that's crooner, dinner music, but we do some blues as well. But that's quite eclectic. We do everything from vaudeville to Broadway to blues to Cajun and that was something that I wasn't getting from my electric band.
And you play with your group Raisin Cain?
With Raisin Cain, this is the second iteration of Raisin Cain. Raisin Cain was a band that I had many years ago as well, and it was easy to pick up that name.
I won't get into that. And in the local musicians around that you see, is there anyone that you have a preference for, that you say, yes, go see this person play? Or, I mean, they all have a little something. There's not one musician that's better than the other. But we do have our preferences.
Everybody is different, and they have their own merit. We're very lucky to have so many talented musicians in the Montreal area.
Yes.
You know? I know guys from some guys I've known for going on 30 years or so, and we've got a long time relationship with them, and I know their styles of music, and I've gotten to see them evolve over the years. So I'd say, I mean, the newer musicians that I've been playing with and the younger guys that I've been playing with in the past 5 or 6 years, I guess, are wonderful musicians, and they're all inspiring. But there's something to seeing guys like Rick Dopra. I don't know if you know him. He doesn't play around so much, but he did do a gig with me not too long ago. I'd say Rick Dopra. I really like Steve Rowe's playing. Steve Rowe played with me in Raisin Cain the first time, in the first band. There's so many guys, that come to mind. James Green, he's got so much talent. Pat Wazell. Pat and I go way back as well. And to see how Pat has evolved over the last decades is just something exciting and wonderful to hear. He's such a talented guy, so there's lots of people. I couldn't even begin to name them all, and I enjoy each one for their own different styles and different idiosyncrasies and whatnot.
And what is your style? If you had to describe your type of sound, what would you call it? Or what would you like to achieve?
That's a hard question. I mean, guys label me as Chicago blues, so some guys do, but I don't only do Chicago style blues. I don't know, I mean, with Raisin Cain, we're pretty well a blues band, and I would say that's it. But I don't pay much attention to styles like saying Memphis blues or Texas blues or Chicago blues. I just sort of
blues is blues.
Blues to me is blues, and I play with Raisin Cain anyway. We do quite a bit of blues, and little slight forays here and there into other, and maybe into other genres, tip of the hat to other genres, but I've never really put an exact label on myself,
Okay.
But I guess I'm pretty well a blues man. That's what I'm doing. That's what I really enjoy playing.
And do you prefer working in a studio or in front of a live audience?
I prefer working live, whether it be in a studio or not. I've done some studio work in the past, but a lot of the work in the studio I've done has been live.
Oh, okay.
One take tunes, we go into a studio and we go for however length of time allocated, and we lay down tracks and then see what sticks. And I really like that feeling when you're playing blues. Blues is a music where it's a very honest music, and when you're playing isolated tracks in the studio, and you put it together, it just doesn't have that same spontaneous feeling, when you're playing live, the band speeds up, it slows down, together, and the dynamics and the guys in the band feed off of each other, and there's something raw about that aspect of the music that really appeals to me. So I'd have to say that playing live is. Okay.
And what kind of gig do you prefer? Like the venue, do you like bigger shows or small, more intimate?
It's hard to say, what I really like is venue where there's an enthusiastic audience. I have to say. Good. And it really doesn't matter if it's a large venue or a small venue. I play in some very small venues, but the audience there is so enthusiastic that it's like Montreal Jazz and Blues. I play there quite regularly.
Okay.
And it's one of my most fun gigs to play, and they have like 4 or 5 tables in that bar. A pool table and a baby foot in a bar. It's a very small room, and but it's very fun to play there because there's such an enthusiastic audience, and they sing along, and they holler, and they dance, and so on and so forth. So I think that feeding off the audience is the key thing for me, whether it be a large venue or a small venue. I like to feel the energy of the audience.
And you always look so calm and collected, but are you ever nervous before a show?
I'm not nervous really playing live. I couldn't say that I am. Funny enough, I've done some radio shows,
Okay.
and I'm nervous then because I can't see anybody. You have no idea who's listening to you.
You need the contact with the public.
I like to have the
Yeah.
contact with the public, you know, and
Yeah.
so when I'm playing in a bar or on a stage at a festival or something like that, I can't say that I'm nervous. I might be hopped up or excited,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm not really nervous. But if I'm playing in a room and there's just like for instance, you and I somewhere, you know, and then you have no idea who the audience is, how large, how small,
Yeah.
if anybody's listening to you at all. For some strange reason, that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
And I think it comes out in interviews that I've done on the radio and stuff like that because
You're not
you
nervous
can hear
now.
that. I'm not nervous now,
No,
not
okay.
too much anyway. If I don't think about it, I shouldn't be nervous. But that's live. I don't really get nervous.
And do you find it more nerve-wracking to play in front of friends or other magicians, or just, is there a difference to you?
Not really. When I play my music, I like to try to establish a rapport with the audience, whoever that may be. But it's really the music and the emotions that I'm expressing through the music that are driving me, and so I really don't worry too much about what other people might think of me. I'm pretty sure I look funny when I sing sometimes. You know?
I remember the first time I heard you, it was your voice that got, I liked harmonica, but it's your voice. You have a raspy voice, and there's so much feeling when it comes out, really. It was very, no, it's true. Okay, so how do you handle mistakes? Because mistakes happen. Just
life is too short to worry about
Yeah.
mistakes, you know. So maybe when I was younger, I would be more uptight about it. But as we get older and wiser, we realize that for the most part, unless it's a really huge mistake, you know, nobody else really notices, you know, and mistakes are okay, you know. We're playing music, and sometimes, especially when you're jamming or if you're playing with a guitar player that you don't normally do, shit happens, stuff goes on, and and you don't let it you don't let it phase you, you know.
okay.
I think the worst thing that I hate is like explaining something to a band or something, or a tune that's not well worked on, and then it doesn't gel together right away on the first thing. I think the worst thing I hate is stopping and restarting. I'd rather play through with it completely fucked up and let it get together and gel and go with it than to have guys say, stop, wait a minute, let's do this over again, you know, or something like that. So, but I don't make life is too short. Life is too short to worry about mistakes.
So I don't even have to ask you if it's a job or sheer pleasure. I think it's, for you, it's pleasure. I think it shows when you sing and play also.
Definitely, it's I play because it's a therapy. I play because I love playing. I really enjoy playing, and I like to share it with other people.
What's your next project?
And if I had to work on it as a job, you know, I think it would be a lot less fun.
Yeah.
You don't make a huge living
No.
playing music.
It's
know.
too bad
There's
because
so many
there's-
people that,
yeah.
that would like to, but it's very difficult to do that. And some of the best musicians I know have to have another job to make ends meet. You know, and so you really got to love it. You really got to enjoy it. And my first responsibility is to myself. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy myself playing. And then my second to myself and to my bandmates.
Yeah.
And then of course to the audience, because I want them to have as much fun and to feel what I'm feeling when I'm performing for them, you know. So I do it really because I love to do it. Yeah.
What's your next project? Or there's too many.
I have a couple of projects. I might like to get another duet happening. I've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about that for a little bit. Maybe I'll do some recording.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
that's good.
It would be nice. It would be nice. I've got a short attention span. I'm kind of attention deficient. So oftentimes I'll take on too many projects
Okay.
at one time, and some of them get completed and some of them don't.
Okay.
My psychiatrist recommended me a couple of books on attention deficiency. I don't attention deficiency, and I lost the list. So
Oh, dear.
I bought myself a bass.
Okay.
Not that I play bass, but to play with that. So anyway,
Okay. What advice would you give to an aspiring young player?
well, who am I to give advice? Well, I'd have to say that listening is key importance for any musician. Listening, because if you're not listening to what your bandmates are doing, and you're caught up only in your moment, and you're not aware of what's going on, your musicality will suffer or won't evolve as quickly as it could. Playing with as many different musicians as you can, and getting as much experience as you can, and getting all kinds of different situations is incredibly enriching for any musician that aspires to play, be it locally or internationally or whatever. You paying your dues, I guess, you might call it that. So listening and gaining experience is one thing, and I think along with that, not taking yourself too seriously. You have to have fun with it. If you take yourself too seriously, that somehow or another that ends up showing through in your playing, and I sincerely believe that it. Even if you're an amazing technician, I sincerely believe that if you take yourself too seriously and you're too uptight about your image and what other people think about it, it shows through in your playing. So to be relaxed and comfortable with yourself, I think, is important. And not be afraid to push yourself a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. Those two elements are key, I think.
Okay, so we're drawing to an end here. Do you have any anecdotes that you'd like to share with us, pleasant or unpleasant, that happened to you during your musical life?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have all kinds of stories.
I'll do another one just for the stories.
Well, that's something I should have thought about, I guess. Antidotes. I've been in some crazy situations, I'd have to say as antidote, I have to say that I'm a very lucky cat, because as a young guy, I got to play in the many bars that are no longer around, and I think I have a huge debt of gratitude to places like the Raisin Cain at Dudu Boissel, where I played quite regularly, and also the G Sharp bar, Gary Sharp, who's no longer with us. These guys would bring in great blues players from Chicago and stuff like that. And these places were a huge school for me, and so I got to play with some amazing guys, jamming with them, like Luther Allison and Hubert Sumlin, who's Howling Wolf's guitar player.
Yeah.
And so I think that I'm incredibly lucky to have been around at that time and have had the opportunity to play with these people. There's lots of stories. Some of them are crazy. I don't know if I should tell too many.
Well, I think we're very lucky to have you in the blues scene around here, and I've seen you at a couple of places, maybe not enough, but you're one of my favorites, Paul. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that you had me come.